Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. The demon realm exists far away from the human world. It is a land filled with demons and monsters. In the middle of this dangerous realm, the future demon king unexpectedly finds himself involved with a human in something that almost feels like romance. How does it come to this? A young demon named Meitaro spends his time calmly drinking tea while speaking with a mirror demon who serves the royal family. During their conversation, he learns that the current demon king plans to step down soon. Meitaro immediately believes the throne will finally become his. He sees himself as the rightful heir to the bloodline. The mirror demon quickly explains that the demon king is not truly retiring and is only taking a leave of absence. Even so, Meitaro continues preparing himself seriously for the future. He carries around large stacks of books and reviews spell after spell. He believes that before becoming a ruler, he must first become a proper demon with a complete understanding of magic. The mirror demon cannot help noticing how serious and disciplined he is. As Meitaro studies, he reflects on his own position. He comes from the bloodline of the great ruler of the demon realm. He possesses powerful innate magic that allows him to cast advanced spells naturally. His noble status and talent make him confident that he is destined for greatness. Deep down, he wants to prove himself to everyone who looks down on him. He dreams of becoming a demon king far superior to the current one. In his mind, the people of the demon realm will one day admire him and live under the prosperity he creates. While practicing summoning magic, Meitaro accidentally brings forth an injured cat. He calmly heals the animal with magic, switching smoothly between white and black magic as if it is second nature to him. Everything appears normal at first. Then he suddenly hears another sound nearby. The mirror demon realizes that the summoning spell may have pulled in something else by mistake. Curious, Meitaro investigates and discovers an injured human child wearing ragged clothes. The situation immediately becomes serious. A human child has somehow ended up inside the demon realm. What could be worse? The mirror demon panics and warns that the demon king will surely be furious if this becomes known. Meitaro agrees that the child must be returned immediately. Still, when he reaches toward the frightened girl and sees her flinch in fear, he pauses. Instead of harming her, he snaps his fingers and creates a bag of snacks for her. He wants to calm her down and reassure her that he has no intention of eating her. The mirror demon casually mentions that demons do consume human souls, which only makes the situation more uncomfortable. Meitaro quickly silences the mirror demon before the child becomes even more terrified. As the girl begins eating desperately, Meitaro realizes her hunger is stronger than her fear. The sight surprises him. He expected panic, yet she continued eating without hesitation. He starts to view her differently. Maybe she is braver than she looks. Meitaro then decides to use the situation as practice for demon contracts. The mirror demon questions whether this is ethical, but Meitaro ignores the concern. Demons are known for forming contracts with humans by granting wishes in exchange for souls. Since the girl is already here, he sees her as the perfect opportunity to practice. He also notices how frightened and vulnerable she looks. Somehow, he even finds it a little cute. The mirror demon then reveals an embarrassing truth. Despite Meitaro's pride and status, he has never actually formed a contract with a human before. He has never even been summoned. Meitaro quickly defends himself by claiming that very few humans are capable of summoning a demon of his level. To him, this is only an experiment and not a real contract. Even so, he asks the mirror demon to keep everything secret from the demon king so they do not get caught. With the frightened human child still before him, Meitaro quietly begins healing her injuries with magic. After accidentally summoning the human child into the demon realm, Meitaro continues caring for her while using different kinds of magic on her every day. What begins as an experiment slowly turns into part of his normal life. The mirror demon eventually questions how long he plans to keep looking after the girl. Meitaro explains that he intends to stay with her until he grants the wish she desires most. To his surprise, her wishes are always small and simple. She asks for things like warm bathwater or meals together with him. For now, he grants those wishes on his own terms without making a formal contract. The mirror demon warns him not to treat the situation lightly. It tells him that getting involved with a human half-heartedly could eventually cause problems for him. Meitaro dismisses the concern immediately. He cannot imagine anything going wrong. Yet as time passes, the girl becomes completely attached to him. 1 year goes by, and her fear of demons disappears entirely. She grows used to living in the demon realm and begins treating it like home. One day, the girl spends time in the fields with the mirror demon while Meitaro thinks quietly to himself. Normally, a human found in the demon realm should be handed over to the demon king, but Meitaro no longer wants to deal with the trouble that would bring. Since she has become his first contractor in everything but name, he starts considering making their arrangement official. By now, he has practiced enough and feels more confident in dealing with humans. The girl soon returns to him happily. Meitaro notices how much healthier she looks compared to before. Her once thin and fragile body has finally filled out, making her appear closer to her real age. She smiles brightly as she approaches him, wearing a flower crown she likely made herself. Meitaro realizes that she smiles far more often these days. Seeing her like this makes him think that maybe it would not hurt to stay together a little longer. Then maybe a little longer after that. Their quiet daily life continues naturally, almost without him noticing how attached he has become. Still, reality keeps reminding him of the truth. Meitaro notices another injury on her arm and heals it immediately with magic. The mirror demon explains that the other demons continue bullying her because humans are extremely rare in the demon realm. On top of that, she constantly becomes sick because the environment itself does not suit human bodies. No matter how much Meitaro heals her, she fundamentally belongs to another world. Meitaro already understands this better than anyone. Even so, he cannot completely ignore the growing discomfort in his chest whenever he sees her suffering. Not long after, the girl encounters a giant monster while wandering alone. Later that night, Meitaro checks on her while she sleeps. Her cheeks are covered in patches from fresh injuries. The mirror demon warns that some of the wounds may leave scars behind. As Meitaro quietly heals her once again, he finally reaches a decision. Humans are simply too fragile to survive in the demon realm forever. Meitaro decides that he will send her back to the human world. He admits to himself that he feels guilty for keeping her here for so long and using her as practice for understanding humans. At the same time, he believes he has already learned more than enough from her. Since the situation partly happened because he failed to protect her properly, he plans to use magic to improve her life after she returns home. He intends to adjust her surroundings and even alter the memories of the people around her so she can live peacefully again. To Meitaro, 1 year does not feel very long. He convinces himself that the girl will eventually forget everything about the demon realm and move on with her life. As he reaches out his hand to begin the magic, he hesitates for the first time. While sleeping, the girl tightly holds onto his hat and quietly mutters that she loves him. Before sending the girl back to the human world, Meitaro gently places his hat on her head as a farewell gift. After quietly saying goodbye, he finally lets her go. Even though he tells himself that it is for her own good, the hesitation in his heart never fully disappears. Time passes after that. Meitaro continues gaining experience as a demon and polishing his abilities. Eventually, the long-awaited day arrives when he stands before the throne of the Demon King. By every visible measure, he appears fully qualified. His magical power is exceptional. His knowledge of the demon realm is vast. He also carries the bloodline of the Demon King himself. To Meitaro, there should be no reason left to delay his succession. However, inside the castle, the current Demon King unexpectedly tells him that he is still lacking something important. Meitaro is stunned by the statement. He immediately questions what could possibly be missing. The Demon King admits that Meitaro is an outstanding demon, yet he still cannot consider him ready to rule. Meitaro struggles to understand this judgment. In his eyes, he has fulfilled every requirement expected of him. The Demon King then explains the issue more clearly. When demons make contracts with humans, the true core of the exchange is not simply the soul itself, but the human heart behind it. Humans often call this emotion and desire the heart. According to the Demon King, Meitaro does not truly understand what lies inside it. He instructs Meitaro to learn about the human heart properly before taking the throne. Only after understanding it will he inherit the position of Demon King. Meitaro is completely caught off guard by this direction. The Demon King calmly explains that it is dangerous to consume something without understanding what is inside it. As future Demon King, Meitaro will one day deal with countless human hearts. Because of that, he must study humans directly in their own world. More specifically, he must learn about love. Meitaro becomes even more confused at this point. He questions why the conversation suddenly shifts from hearts to love. The Demon King explains that love is the most complicated part of the human heart, and Meitaro treats it far too lightly. The Demon King decides this lesson will also help correct Meitaro's bad habits. Before Meitaro can properly react, a hand suddenly emerges from the mirror beside him and grabs him forcefully. Meitaro panics and demands to know what the mirror demon is doing, while the mirror calmly reminds him that it warned him about this before. The Demon King lightly taps Meitaro on the head as a farewell gesture while sending him away. Meitaro desperately calls out as he is pulled completely into the mirror, while the Demon King simply waves him off. Moments later, Meitaro crashes violently into a dark room somewhere in the human realm. Irritated by the rough landing, he complains internally about the mirror demon sending him flying like that. As he regains his senses, he starts observing his surroundings carefully. The room is dark, but he can tell he is indoors. Then he hears movement nearby and notices a shape hidden beneath a blanket. Realizing someone else is in the room, he immediately becomes nervous. Based on the little human knowledge he taught himself, Meitaro suddenly worries that he has committed illegal trespassing by appearing inside a human home without permission. His imagination quickly spirals toward disaster. He pictures humans panicking, capturing him, and turning him into some kind of research subject. Deciding escape is the safest option, he prepares to use magic and flee immediately. Before leaving, he notices his old hat stored carefully inside a transparent display case. The sight catches him off guard. As he picks it up, he suddenly senses someone standing behind him. When he turns around, he sees a young woman smiling gently at him. To his shock, she calls him by name and says she has finally found him. The moment Meitaro sees her clearly, memories from 15 years earlier rush back into his mind. He remembers the small injured girl he once summoned into the demon realm. He remembers the scars left on her neck. Those same scars are now visible on the woman standing before him. Slowly, he recalls her name and realizes who she is. The woman happily confirms that she is indeed Bibi and expresses relief that he recognized her after all this time. Meitaro is stunned by how much she has changed. To him, 15 years in the human realm feel surprisingly short compared to a demon's sense of time, yet the frightened child he once knew has already grown into an adult woman. Bibi explains that she already knows why he has come to the human world. She reveals that the Demon King informed her about his mission to study humans and learn about love. Hearing this leaves Meitaro completely shocked once again. He quickly realizes that the human the Demon King had in mind from the beginning was Bibi herself. He starts wondering just how long the Demon King has secretly known about everything. Bibi then explains that because she knows both Meitaro and the demon realm, she believes she can help him with his studies. She asks him to stay with her. Before she can even finish speaking, Meitaro immediately rejects the idea without hesitation. Meitaro immediately rejects Bibi's suggestion and insists that nothing about the situation makes sense to him. Even though she has grown into an adult and completely changed in appearance, he still sees her as the small child he once took care of in the demon realm. In his mind, that part has never changed. He explains that although they only spent a single year together, he treated her almost like family, like a niece under his care. Because of that, the idea of asking her to teach him about love and romance feels deeply wrong to him on a moral level. Bibi points out that demons are not exactly known for caring about morals. Meitaro stubbornly argues back and declares that he will simply return to the demon realm and protest directly to the Demon King. However, Bibi calmly tells him that he still is not capable of understanding what the Demon King wants him to learn. Humans and demons may be different species, but understanding human emotions, love, and romance requires something beyond knowledge alone. She believes those concepts are too difficult for him right now, even if the Demon King himself understands them perfectly. Meitaro quickly insists that he can absolutely handle it. He confidently claims that love and emotions are simple matters and that he will surpass the Demon King before long. Despite his brave words, nervous sweat immediately gives him away. Bibi notices this and quietly decides the matter for him. In the end, Meitaro reluctantly accepts her cooperation because the order comes directly from the Demon King. While he is still lost in thought and trying to organize his feelings, Bibi suddenly wraps her arms around him tightly. The sudden embrace catches him completely off guard and makes him blush intensely. Bibi softly explains that she finally has a chance to return the warmth he once gave her. Back when she lived in the demon realm, every single day with him felt warm, peaceful, and happy to her. As she holds him close, Meitaro becomes distracted by a strange sound. After a moment, he realizes he is hearing her heartbeat. For some reason, he finds the rhythm strangely comforting and pleasant. Bibi explains that while Meitaro sees their time together as only 1 year, for a lonely human child it felt far longer and much more intense. She gently tells him that he cannot truly understand what that meant to her. As she rubs his face affectionately, she reveals how painful the past 15 years have been for her after suddenly being returned to the human world without warning. Meitaro has no idea how deeply that separation affected her. Far away, the Demon King quietly reflects on the situation. Humans capable of reaching demons and forming contracts are already driven by powerful obsessions. For Bibi to summon the Demon King himself requires extraordinary determination. In the Demon King's eyes, Bibi's feelings have twisted over the years into something heavy and distorted, like a chrysalis that failed to hatch properly. Back in the room, Bibi slowly moves closer to Meitaro. For the first time, he feels genuine fear toward her. The girl he remembers and the woman standing before him feel completely different. Panicking internally, he reaches for his staff and thinks about escaping back to the demon realm immediately. However, he suddenly realizes that he cannot use any magic at all. At that moment, Meitaro recalls the Demon King lightly striking his head before sending him away. He finally understands that the Demon King sealed his magic from the start. Bibi notices his realization and smiles faintly as she comments on how the situation has now reversed. She asks him how it feels to have nowhere to return to and no power to rely on. This time, she claims, she will be the one teaching him everything. She gently places his old hat back onto his head and tells him to take responsibility for ruining her life. Even faced with her overwhelming emotions, Meitaro refuses to back down completely. He scoffs and tells her not to flatter herself. To him, nothing has truly changed between them. Whether 1 year passes, 15 years, or even 100, he still sees them as the same people they were back then. Deep down, he tries convincing himself that he can simply use her once again as part of his path toward becoming Demon King. But Bibi seems to understand his thoughts perfectly. She quietly remarks that he really is still the same Meitaro she remembers. Meanwhile, Meitaro feels completely overwhelmed. Everything around him suddenly feels too loud. Her heartbeat, her emotions, her presence, and even his own feelings begin throwing him into confusion. Then Bibi casually reaches toward his staff. As if it is the most natural thing in the world, she uses healing magic herself. Meitaro can only stare at her in complete shock. Meitaro quickly tries to calm the situation and reassures Bibi that he has no intention of harming or eating her. Instead of easing the tension, Bibi only responds with a soft compliment, saying he looks surprisingly cute when he is scared. The words unsettle him more than he expects. Trying to shift the mood, Meitaro prepares food and tells her she can eat as much as she wants. Bibi accepts it, but then suddenly questions something deeper. She points out that anything given on a whim can also carry unexpected weight when it is received. She asks if he has ever thought about what it means to give something so casually and then have it come back to you in a different form. The question hits Meitaro harder than he expects, leaving him visibly shaken. In the next moment, everything fades and Meitaro wakes up. He finds himself in a bed with Bibi sleeping beside him, hugging him gently in her sleep. For a brief moment, he wonders if everything that happened was just a dream. But as he slowly looks around the room and studies the surroundings, the feeling of reality returns. Something about it feels too real to dismiss. Soon after, he realizes that Bibi has actually used healing magic on him. This irritates him, even though he knows sleep is an effective way to recover stamina. Still, he strongly feels that it does not justify them sleeping in the same bed. He tells her firmly that there was no need for such an arrangement. Bibi, however, insists that it was completely necessary. She calmly reminds him that they used to sleep together all the time when she was younger. Meitaro immediately points out that things are different now. Back then, she was a child. Bibi does not let that pass easily and reminds him that he also used to treat her as a child. She argues that if that was acceptable then, it should not suddenly become a problem now that she is grown. Meitaro is left struggling to respond, even though deep down he admits he had one of the most restful sleeps he has had in a long time. That thought bothers him even more. As he processes everything, he begins to question something else. He wonders whether Bibi could even use healing magic properly at all. From his perspective, her sudden growth in ability feels almost unreal. To him, she seems like someone who disappeared as a child and reappeared as an adult in an instant. That alone is already more than he can fully accept. After some time passes, Bibi asks what Meitaro has been doing since leaving the room. He explains that he is making breakfast. Since he is currently staying under her roof, he says he will treat cooking as payment for room and board. Bibi finds this unexpectedly considerate and comments on it. She then asks what he is preparing, whether it is bread or rice. Meitaro confidently replies that he is making cereal. At the same time, he cannot stop thinking about how helpless he feels without his magic. His power had been sealed before arriving in the human world, leaving him unable to rely on it at all. He admits to Bibi that this is his first time cooking completely without magic. Bibi is surprised, but she gently tells him that what matters most is that he tried. She then tastes the food. Meitaro immediately tries to stop her, unsure of the result. After taking a bite, Bibi praises it and says the fried egg is delicious. Meitaro quickly corrects her, insisting she is only eating cornflakes. Bibi, however, confidently insists that it tastes like an egg sandwich instead. Meitaro refuses to agree and repeats that it is definitely cornflakes. In frustration, Meitaro ends up throwing the meal into the trash. Bibi reacts immediately, upset that he would waste something he made for the first time. She sees it as something meaningful, even if it did not turn out well. Meitaro apologizes, admitting that he wasted the ingredients. Bibi brushes it off and says it does not matter. She also mentions that they still have leftovers. Just then, Meitaro's stomach growls loudly. Bibi looks at him and calmly tells him to make it up to her then. Bibi eventually decides to feed Meitaro a cookie herself. She holds one up and asks him to open his mouth. Meitaro hesitates and first asks what exactly she is trying to give him. Bibi explains casually that it is just leftover cookies, but avoids saying it too directly. In her mind, this is part of what he came here to understand. Meitaro immediately disagrees, insisting that this is not related to his mission. Bibi calmly insists that it is. Meitaro tries to explain that he was sent here to learn about the human soul. Before he can finish his sentence, Bibi interrupts him again and corrects him, saying it still falls under what he is meant to learn. Without waiting any longer, she once again offers him the cookie. Meitaro becomes visibly flustered and asks if she is embarrassed for him to eat it even though he is older than her. After a moment of hesitation, he finally opens his mouth and accepts it. As he chews, Meitaro suddenly imagines the situation in a strange way. To him, it feels like a mother bird feeding its chicks. The thought confuses him even more, but he does not say it aloud. Bibi then offers him more cookies. Meitaro accepts without much resistance, mainly because he realizes it has been a long time since he last ate anything sweet. As he continues eating, he notices a strange taste that does not feel quite right. He quietly wonders if cookies are always supposed to taste like this. Bibi asks him if it is sweet, and the question catches him off guard, leaving him unsure how to respond. Without warning, Bibi leans in and gently helps wipe his mouth. The sudden closeness makes Meitaro freeze completely. For a moment, he even starts questioning whether he is the one in control of the situation at all. Overwhelmed by the constant closeness, he finally pushes her back slightly and asks if she is trying to bore a hole straight through him. Bibi is surprised by his reaction and looks at him in confusion. Meitaro begins to feel an unfamiliar sense of danger, even though Bibi is still smiling softly. He quickly tells her that he is done eating and insists that what he already had is enough as an apology. He suggests that she finish the rest herself. Bibi disagrees and says he is supposed to eat more cookies in situations like this. Meitaro questions her logic, calling it strange. Bibi explains that this is exactly what he used to do for her when she was a child. She remembers how he always took care of her and offered her small comforts back then. Now she is simply trying to return that same kindness. Meitaro finds the reasoning difficult to accept. Still, he is slightly impressed that she noticed he was tired. He also realizes that she is trying to mirror his past behavior toward her. Bibi quietly points out that he is probably thinking about how the roles have reversed. Meitaro immediately denies it and quickly changes the topic. He asks if there are still ingredients left for cookies, as if trying to regain control of the situation. He insists that he will make them himself this time. Even without magic, he wants to prove that he is still capable. Before long, he prepares a new batch of cookies and presents them to Bibi with a hint of confidence. He treats it as proof of his ability. Bibi looks impressed and says he has already mastered it faster than expected. She moves closer again and accepts one of the cookies he offers. Meitaro feeds her while watching carefully. He asks if it tastes the same. Bibi chews quietly, her expression shifting slightly in surprise. Feeling confident, Meitaro even tries one himself, only to immediately spit it out. He admits it tastes terrible and clearly burnt. Bibi also confirms the taste, though she still continues eating hers. Meitaro quickly asks if she is really okay eating something like that. He tells her to spit it out, insisting it must be bitter. But instead of obeying, Bibi calmly finishes it and says it tastes sweet. The response shocks him completely. Meitaro begins to wonder if her sense of taste has changed now that she is an adult, but Bibi shakes her head and tells him it is not that. She says the problem is him. That simple answer leaves Meitaro uneasy, unsure of what she really means. Meitaro finishes watching a long cooking video, where the host proudly announces a level 100 omelette after 3 hours of preparation. He quietly notes how absurdly long the process takes. As the video ends, the weather forecast begins. Rain is expected in some areas later in the evening and through the night. His attention shifts to the entrance where a few umbrellas are left by the door. He realizes Bibi must still be out. He remembers she mentioned going shopping and told him not to worry, but something about it still bothers him. She tends to get sick easily, and the thought of her walking around in the rain makes him uneasy. Without overthinking further, he grabs an umbrella and heads out. Standing outside, Meitaro pauses, unsure of where her university actually is. He begins searching while trying to rely on the limited information he has about the human world. Meanwhile, Bibi is still at university, sitting quietly in the dining hall. A classmate approaches her and casually asks if she is free next period to have lunch together. Bibi agrees without much hesitation. The classmate, Nagisa, then continues on with her normal routine. Around them, other students talk about Nagisa. One guy watches her from a distance, clearly fascinated. He describes her as tall, beautiful, and extremely composed. To him, she feels almost untouchable. He even mentions that she was admitted as the top student, excelling in both academics and appearance. He is completely captivated by her presence. The conversation shifts to rumors. He hears that Nagisa once refused to join a beauty pageant, which only deepens his admiration. He becomes even more focused on her every detail, even wondering if she ever smiles at all. Another student disagrees, saying she does smile sometimes, especially when she is with her boyfriend. That immediately sparks doubt. The guy refuses to believe Nagisa has a boyfriend at all. The discussion turns into a small argument, while others at the table try to imagine what kind of person could possibly match her. One student even suggests that no one really could. Another story comes up about Nagisa stopping what looked like a grocery store robbery. Someone had mistaken it for a convenience store incident, but it turned out she handled it herself. This leads them to realize something important. Nagisa is not just intelligent and composed. She is also physically capable to an unusual degree. It is explained that she learned self-defense early on because she often attracted unwanted attention as a child. Over time, she became highly skilled in many areas. She no longer wants to rely on others for protection. She also tends to reject every romantic confession she receives, showing little interest in dating. Most of her peers accept this and simply value being her friend instead. In the dining hall, Nagisa stands quietly with her food tray, slightly lost in thought. A staff member behind the counter speaks to her, but she does not fully register it at first. Only when her bag is handed back to her does she realize he had been talking to her. He mentions that her portion is larger than usual today. Nagisa looks mildly surprised, but the staff member reassures her that it is fine and even encourages her to eat properly, saying young people should not skip meals. Another chef joins in, saying he is relieved to see her eating well, since he once worried she might be a light eater living alone. Nagisa stands there slightly awkward, unsure how to respond to all the attention. The staff member then adds a little extra to her meal, casually saying that she needs energy as a student and that a bit of sugar is important. Nagisa thanks the man at the counter, then steps outside just as the rain begins to fall. The weather shifts quickly, turning the campus entrance into a quiet rush of people seeking shelter. She pauses at the doorway for a moment. Her attention drifts to a passing father carrying his child. The two of them talk softly as they hurry through the rain together. Nagisa watches them for a while, strangely absorbed in the simple warmth of the scene. Something about it lingers in her thoughts. After a moment, she decides it is probably time for her to head home as well. That is when Meitaro arrives with an umbrella. He immediately confirms his suspicion that she had not brought one. Without hesitation, he tells her she needs to be more careful, warning that walking home in this rain would only make her sick. Nagisa is surprised to see him there at all. Meitaro notices her face turning slightly red and assumes she may already be getting ill, but she quickly corrects him. It is not sickness. It is simply because he came all the way to pick her up. Together, they begin walking home. On the way, Nagisa quietly says that she sometimes feels she is no match for him. She then asks if he managed to find his way to the university easily. Meitaro answers honestly that he did, but only after a difficult experience. He explains that he had no idea where the place was at first. When he tried asking for directions, he was even stopped and questioned by the police, which made him realize how complicated the human world is. He continues speaking, saying that everything feels crowded and unpredictable compared to the demon realm. Without his magic, he feels exposed to constant risk. He even remarks that humans must have shorter lifespans because of how chaotic everything is. While he talks, he notices Nagisa's expression change and suddenly asks why she looks so happy. Nagisa admits it is because he came looking for her. The fact that he thought about her and acted on it makes her genuinely happy. She adds that she does not really care about things like school or friends in the same way anymore. Now that she knows him, she feels something has already changed too much for her to go back to how she was before. Meitaro is left unsure how to respond. After a pause, he simply tells her they should head home. Nagisa agrees, and they continue walking. That is when she notices something important. Meitaro only brought one umbrella. She immediately tells him to use it properly, but he insists that she should take it instead. Nagisa argues back, worried he will catch a cold. Meitaro calmly replies that demons do not get sick from colds. Unseen nearby, the mirror demon watches the scene unfold with growing surprise. The interaction between Meitaro and Nagisa is far calmer and more natural than expected. There is no chaos, no dramatic conflict, nothing resembling that messy, emotional exchange it had anticipated. Instead, there is something steadier, harder to read. The mirror demon becomes more interested. If things are this stable, it might need to intervene to make the situation more interesting. Later that night, Nagisa, also known as Bibi, feels troubled when she sees Meitaro sleeping inside a sleeping bag instead of on the bed. She tries to get him to sleep beside her, but he refuses. He believes the situation is her fault because she keeps clinging to him no matter how many times he asks her to stop. Because of that, he cannot sleep properly at night. He explains that if every night continues like this, he will never get enough rest. The only reason he manages to sleep on the first day is because he is completely exhausted. He believes the sleeping bag is a better solution since it keeps them from touching each other and allows them both to relax peacefully. Still, Bibi worries about him. The sleeping bag looks cramped and uncomfortable, and she notices he can barely move inside it. She realizes how helpless he looks and slowly moves closer to him. Meitaro immediately becomes nervous when he notices her hand reaching for the zipper. What is she planning now? Before he can react, she opens the sleeping bag slightly, grabs him tightly, and pulls him into a warm hug. Even though he wants to resist, Bibi has already decided that she is not letting go of that warmth so easily. At the same time, the servant of the demon royalty spends the night thinking about the young master he sends to the human world. Watching Meitaro's current situation leaves him surprised. He expects Meitaro to already be completely under Bibi's influence by now, yet things are clearly not progressing the way he imagined. Curious and amused, he uses his magical mirror to interfere and suddenly appears before them through the connection. The sudden appearance shocks both Bibi and Meitaro, and Nagisa quickly pulls herself away from him. Meitaro, however, feels relieved by the interruption and immediately asks the mirror for help. Instead of helping, the mirror simply snaps a picture of the scene. Confused and annoyed, Meitaro questions why it is taking pictures, while the servant casually comments on how the two of them seem to be arguing about sleeping in the same bed. The servant then tells Meitaro that he needs to get used to physical contact. In his eyes, living together with Bibi already means sharing close space naturally. He believes Meitaro only lacks experience and that once he becomes accustomed to physical closeness, sleeping beside someone will stop bothering him. After that, the servant reminds him that he is supposed to be training. Meitaro becomes confused about what kind of training he means, but the servant proudly reveals a special item called the forced flirting prompt box. The moment Meitaro sees it, disappointment immediately fills his face. He angrily insults the mirror, but the servant calmly explains the rules of the game. Inside the box are random cards containing prompts that involve physical contact. One person acts out the prompt while the other tries to guess it within a time limit. If the guess is correct, the person guessing wins. If not, the person acting wins instead. BB quickly becomes interested in the game and asks what kind of physical contact the prompts involve. The mirror casually explains that they include things like hugging and kissing. That answer only makes Meitaro even angrier. He starts wondering what kind of ridiculous scheme the servant is trying to push onto him. The servant insists that he genuinely thinks the game would help him overcome his discomfort with physical contact and claims it comes from kindness. Meitaro refuses to believe that explanation and demands the real reason. In the end, the servant honestly admits that he mostly thinks the whole thing sounds entertaining. That answer only embarrasses Meitaro further. He cannot understand why anyone would willingly participate in something so humiliating. He insists there is no reason to go as far as flirting just to get used to physical contact and demands that the mirror leave immediately. The servant seems disappointed by the rejection. He complains about the effort he puts into arranging the game and even mentions getting approval for it, which only confuses Meitaro more. Approval from who exactly? Even BB tries calming Meitaro down by gently petting him, but before the argument can continue, the servant suddenly reveals an important reward. If Meitaro manages to defeat BB in the game, the Demon King is willing to return a portion of his magic power. The announcement instantly changes Meitaro's attitude. Shock quickly replaces his anger as he asks if the offer is truly real. The servant confirms it, though only partially. The Demon King is willing to return enough power for Meitaro to use only one type of magic again, either healing magic or transformation magic. The servant also explains that participating in the game would prove to the Demon King that Meitaro is finally taking his training seriously. Even so, he makes it clear that the decision is entirely Meitaro's to make. After thinking carefully about the offer, Meitaro finally decides to participate in the game. Even though he understands that winning would only return a single type of magic to him, he still believes it is worth trying. To him, any amount of magic is better than having nothing at all. The mirror then chooses BB to act out the prompts while Meitaro becomes the one responsible for guessing them. Just before the game properly begins, the mirror suddenly remembers that only Meitaro's reward has been discussed. Curious, he turns his attention to BB and asks what kind of reward she would want if she wins instead. Soon, the game officially starts. BB immediately moves toward Meitaro and tightly hugs him without hesitation. The moment it happens, Meitaro already realizes how embarrassing the entire game is going to become. He struggles to get away from her grip and tries standing up, but BB refuses to let go so easily. Flustered and annoyed, he desperately tries to stop the situation while the mirror simply reminds him that he is the one who willingly agrees to participate. Meitaro knows that already, yet the humiliation still gets to him. Trying to finish quickly, he blurts out his first guess and calls the action an embrace, but the mirror immediately declares it incorrect. He quickly tries another answer and calls it a squeeze, but that is also wrong. Even while feeling frustrated, Meitaro remembers that nobody forces him into this game. He chooses this himself because of the chance to regain his magic. He keeps trying anyway and guesses that he is being carried, but the answer is still incorrect. At that point, irritation starts building inside him. Seeing his confusion, the mirror explains that the answers must match the written prompts exactly, word for word. Any interpretation that strays too far from the intended phrase counts as a failure. The mirror advises him to find the right balance between making the action too obvious and making it too difficult to understand. Meitaro then urges BB to perform the action more clearly, but the mirror quickly warns him that asking for help is against the rules. Meanwhile, BB remains fully determined to support him and promises to try her hardest so he can guess correctly. The mirror becomes exasperated and questions whether either of them is even listening to the rules anymore. He also warns Meitaro that if he decides the game is not being taken seriously, he will cancel the agreement entirely. The warning immediately shocks both of them and forces Meitaro to focus again. Despite continuing to guess, Meitaro still cannot figure out the correct answer. His frustration finally explodes, and he pushes BB away while complaining that something must be wrong with the prompts themselves. The mirror calmly insists that the prompts are perfectly fine. Then Meitaro suddenly remembers something the mirror says earlier about preparing the prompts personally. Suspicious, he asks if the mirror truly writes them himself. The mirror proudly confirms it and even shows him the card directly as proof. The moment Meitaro reads the prompt, his expression completely changes. The actual instruction says to make the other person strip. Instantly, he loses all motivation to continue the game. He cannot understand why such a ridiculous prompt even exists in the first place and immediately tries ending the game right there. BB, however, quietly watches him without saying much. Then, without warning, she gently slips her hand into his and holds onto him closely. Meitaro becomes confused by her sudden action and wonders what she is trying to do now. BB calmly explains that among all the possible actions in the game, she simply chooses the one she personally wants to act out for him. Hearing that makes Meitaro calm down slightly at first as he tries to understand her intention. But the moment he realizes what she is attempting, his embarrassment returns even stronger than before. To him, what she is doing now feels far more dangerous than the earlier hugging and clinging. Before he can stop her, BB slowly guides his hand toward herself, and in that moment Meitaro feels as though their roles in the game are beginning to reverse completely. After BB finishes demonstrating the gesture, Meitaro guesses that it is a hug. Unfortunately for him, the mirror immediately points out that the earlier round already counts as a forfeit. Because of that, BB is officially declared the winner of the first round. Since Meitaro himself asks to switch roles earlier, the mirror decides to treat the next part as a second round instead. He even comments that it is unfortunate Meitaro cannot settle things in a single match. BB quickly apologizes for her poor performance during the first round, believing that she fails to help him properly. At first, Meitaro tells her it is not really her fault. But after thinking about it for another moment, he suddenly changes his mind and says it actually is her fault after all. He even tells her to seriously reflect on her actions. The comment immediately devastates BB and leaves her looking crushed. Even so, the mirror pays little attention to the exchange and quickly pushes the game forward. This time, Meitaro becomes the one acting while BB takes the role of guessing. The servant urges Meitaro to hurry and draw a prompt from the box. He also explains that if the second round somehow ends in a tie, they will need further discussion to decide the outcome. However, if Meitaro loses again, then the game officially ends for him. Hearing that warning, Meitaro seriously acknowledges it and prepares himself properly. Soon, Meitaro begins acting out his prompt by wrapping his arms around BB's neck from behind. Watching the scene, the mirror immediately suspects that Meitaro is simply repeating the earlier prompt from BB's turn. Meitaro quickly denies it and insists there are no duplicate prompts inside the box. The mirror then checks whether BB is even okay with the way Meitaro is holding her. That is when BB admits that she feels like she is melting from the experience. The mirror openly doubts how dramatic that sounds, yet BB continues trying to guess anyway. One after another, all of her guesses turn out wrong. The situation drags on for so long that even the mirror starts getting concerned. Eventually, he asks Meitaro to stop because BB looks close to passing out from embarrassment and excitement. Meitaro finally lets go of her, and BB immediately looks relieved. Seeing her reaction leaves Meitaro confused. He cannot understand why she reacts so strongly when the same kind of clingy behavior is exactly what she always does to him. Does it suddenly feel different because he is the one doing it this time? The thought also reminds him of the past, when he used to hug her from behind back when she was still much younger. The mirror pushes BB to continue guessing before the time runs out, so she nervously makes another attempt and guesses that the action is meant to represent a present. Once again, she is completely wrong. At that point, even the mirror becomes suspicious and asks Meitaro if he is intentionally choosing difficult prompts that are impossible to understand. The rules clearly forbid that. Meitaro insists that he is not cheating at all. Still, inside his mind, Meitaro knows the situation is complicated. He feels as though he can only recreate the prompt in his own way instead of acting it out naturally. At the same time, he also understands that if BB fails to guess correctly before time runs out, then he wins automatically. However, there is still a risk. If the mirror decides that his actions do not properly match the prompt, then the agreement about restoring his magic could disappear completely. As the game continues, Meitaro suddenly finds himself questioning the entire situation. He cannot believe he is seriously participating in some strange guessing game designed around couples. To him, this is exactly the kind of unfamiliar thing he should never attempt without proper preparation. The fact that he is competing against BB for the first time only makes it feel stranger. Yet while staring at her sitting quietly before him, another realization slowly enters his mind. In the end, he feels that their relationship is not so different from the game itself. Both of them understand each other's situations and motives very clearly. In some way, they are simply using each other. Meitaro remembers hearing that humans can be useful if handled properly, and that is exactly how he views his arrangement with Bibi. He is using her as part of his path toward becoming the Demon King. Deep down, he knows such a relationship is never meant to last forever. After spending time lost in thought, Meitaro finally reaches for Bibi's hand. He decides that this time, he will teach her instead. Bibi still does not understand what he is trying to do, but she quietly follows his movements. Meitaro gently presses her hand against his in a clapping motion, noticing that his hands are still much larger than hers. After that, he slowly clasps both of her hands together while the two of them quietly stare into each other's eyes. Then Meitaro notices how cold her hands feel and wonders aloud how her hands can possibly be colder than a demon's own hands. Just as Meitaro continues holding Bibi's hands, the mirror suddenly announces that the game is over. The unexpected declaration shocks both of them at the same time, and they immediately turn toward the mirror together in confusion. Right after that, the prompt box suddenly starts ringing loudly. The servant quickly apologizes and explains that he accidentally answers something before hurriedly switching it off again. Naturally, Meitaro immediately wonders if that means he loses the game after all. To his surprise, the mirror denies it. He explains that the interruption is entirely his own mistake, so the result cannot count against either of them. Instead, he decides to declare both Meitaro and Bibi as winners. Hearing that instantly brightens Meitaro's mood. The servant easily notices that the only reason for his excitement is the possibility of getting his magic back. Amused by this reaction, the mirror promises to send in a request for the reward and tells him to wait patiently for a while. At first, Meitaro still struggles to trust him completely. However, the moment the mirror turns toward Bibi and seriously asks what reward she would like for herself, Meitaro's doubts begin disappearing. Suddenly full of energy again, he excitedly encourages Bibi to ask for whatever she wants. He even starts trying to suggest rewards for her himself, such as cookies from the demon realm. The mirror quickly stops him and warns him not to decide things on Bibi's behalf. Meanwhile, Meitaro quietly thinks about what regaining his magic could mean for him. Even if only one type of magic returns, he feels it should still help him adjust better to the unfamiliar human world around him. The only thing he still does not know is which type of magic the Demon King plans to restore. At the same time, Bibi is lost in completely different thoughts. She keeps thinking about Meitaro's hands and how much larger they feel compared to her own. His hands are large enough to completely wrap around hers. The feeling stays in her mind longer than she expects. To her, it almost feels strange because she believes her own hands and height stopped changing long ago. Even though there are still many things she does not fully understand about Meitaro, she quietly accepts that reality. After all, they spend 15 years apart from each other. Would it not be natural for some distance to remain between them? The mirror notices Bibi sitting there silently lost in thought and quickly misunderstands the situation. He asks if she dislikes Meitaro holding her hands. Even though the hand-holding only happens during the game, he still believes it is improper for the young master to casually touch a lady's hands first. Because of that, he awkwardly promises her that such a thing will never happen again. Immediately, Bibi starts shaking her head repeatedly in panic. Her reaction becomes so strong that even the mirror has to tell her to calm down. After collecting herself, Bibi explains that her hands are simply cold, and she is only rubbing them together to warm them up again. Hearing that explanation changes the servant's attitude completely. He casually assures her that there is nothing to worry about because Meitaro actually prefers cold hands anyway. That answer surprises Bibi, making her wonder if Meitaro's personal preferences are really that specific. The mirror quickly clarifies what he actually means. He explains that there is a saying claiming that people with cold hands usually have warm hearts. Once Bibi understands the meaning behind the comment, she finally relaxes. The servant gently tells her not to overthink it and explains that Meitaro is probably only concerned because she gets cold easily. According to him, Meitaro is simply terrible at expressing himself properly. Before the servant can continue pushing those ideas any further, Meitaro quickly cuts him off and warns him not to fill Bibi's head with unnecessary thoughts. The mirror only laughs at the reaction and insists that he does no such thing. Even so, the servant cheerfully announces that he plans to bring more games like the prompt box in the future. Because of that, he says they should expect him to continue visiting them regularly from now on. Meitaro immediately loses interest in listening any further. Without even bothering to entertain the idea, he bluntly tells the mirror to return home already before turning his back on it completely. Long story short, the Demon King returns a portion of Maitaro's magic. In his cat form, he proudly declares that he can use transformation magic now. Bibi asks if he can really use transformation magic now, and he replies that apparently this was deemed the most suitable option, and he supposes he is meant to mimic humans when necessary. The next second, a horse stands where the cat had been, and more importantly, he declares that they should look at this. Bibi glances at him and remarks that it is super cool and amazing, but after tilting her head, she asks if he is sure he is feeling okay using magic over and over all of a sudden. Since it has been a while, wouldn't there be some kind of backlash? Now back in his cat form, Maitaro pants and scoffs, declaring that this is amazing. He then returns to his real form and proudly proclaims that so what if he did not have his magic for a teeny tiny amount of time? He is totally fine. It is no big deal. Later, however, he lies on his bed drenched in sweat, burning up and shaking. He mutters that this is simply because of the sudden change of environment, but Bibi stares at him dumbfounded. He even complains that it is entirely the Devil King's fault for tossing him into the human realm unprepared and insists that this is all his doing. Bibi softly apologizes, causing him to blink and ask why she is apologizing, only for another coughing fit to cut him off. Bibi calls out his name in alarm, but he weakly assures her that he is fine and that it will clear up after a night's rest. He then mutters that he has already asked the mirror for the proper medicine, so she should let him know when it arrives. Bibi glances at the table beside her and picks up the medicine, informing him that it is already here. When she suddenly falls silent, Maitaro calls out her name. Bibi calls his name back, and a huge smile suddenly spreads across her face. She announces that she will give it her all and nurse him back to health. He stares at her in horror and can only mutter a baffled huh. As she slowly starts moving toward him, he immediately sits upright, his back straightening and his guard shooting up as he hurriedly tells her to wait and stay back because he is contagious. But Bibi simply smiles and says that she does not mind catching it. Maitaro immediately rejects the idea. Absolutely not. Then a dreadful thought occurs to him. She said she would give it her all. Considering how she has been acting lately, just what kind of nursing is she planning to subject him to? He gulps, looking thoroughly horrified. But some time later, Maitaro sits on the bed in complete bewilderment, a thermometer sticking out of his mouth while Bibi quietly cuts an apple beside him. He stares blankly. He thinks how ordinary she used cooling patches on his head, used ice pack and a towel, and rabbit-shaped apples. She asks him what is he thinking. He replies nothing. He supposes it is just a bit anticlimactic. He lets out a sigh and thinks. Damn, doesn't this make it sound as though he had been expecting something? But then he freezes. His eyes widen, horror creeping back onto his face. He wasn't expecting anything, though, right? Meanwhile, Bibi checks the thermometer before innocently asking if he would have preferred that she used her hands. He nearly jerks his neck in shock and blurts out what exactly she means by her hands, but she's only holding an apple, telling him to eat it from her hands, and then casually says, so demons can catch colds too. He takes the apple from her hand, looking at it with a deadpan look and mutters he hasn't been sick for quite some time. Before, whenever he felt unwell, he would instantly cure himself using magic. She asks him if he always healed himself on his own, causing him to puff up proudly and boast that of course he did. But then she quietly comments that it sounds a little lonely, and he freezes. Whatever does she mean by that? That is standard practice for a talented demon. Besides, isn't she pretty much the same? Bibi points out that she always had him. He says that is not what he meant before telling her to forget it. Changing the subject, he reminds her that the mirror sent over the medicine earlier, didn't it? She replies that it did and hands it over, reminding him to eat the apples after taking the medicine. He agrees, but while rummaging through the package, he notices something else and pulls it out, asking what it is. Bibi tilts her head and guesses that perhaps it is a prize from their last game. Mr. Mirror did say he would give her something nice too. However, Maitaro's eyes widen as he stares at the piece of paper. Written across it are the words, I got the right to take care of Maitaro. 15 years ago in the demon realm. The small Bibi looks at the coupon and thinks that she wants to return the favor. He always feeds her, helps her study, and whenever she catches a fever, he is always the one taking care of her. Looking up at him, the little girl says that she wants to take care of him too. She then shyly presents him with the return the favor coupon, only for him to stare at it with a dumbfounded expression before muttering that he has no need for such a thing. The poor girl immediately crumples. She stands there with trembling limbs and watery eyes. Meitaro simply declares that he is a demon and that demons do not accept charity from humans. Why would he demand compensation from a mere test subject? Inside his mind, another voice grumbles in frustration that he could just accept it at face value when Bibi had clearly been so excited about it. Bibi quietly admits that she just wanted to be helpful to him. In response, he tells her that she can pay him back when she has made it big. Confused, she asks what made it big means. He explains that it means when she becomes taller, even taller than him, though he mutters that such a day will never come. Bibi nods and promises that when she grows bigger, she will really return the favor many times over. In the present, Meitaro finds himself thinking that, right, that really did happen. She had always been fixated on returning favors. Bibi takes the coupon from his hand and says that he actually kept it. Looking away in embarrassment, he insists that it is no such thing. It is a coincidence. A total coincidence. Inside his mind, Meitaro is in complete disarray, thinking that the nosy mirror had absolutely no business sneaking something like that in at a moment like this. He flinches when Bibi suddenly leans too close and warns her that she will catch his cold, but she only softens, gently touching his ear as she apologizes, admitting that even though he is sick, she is actually happy to be here and says she is sorry. As her fingers slide lightly across his cheek, he looks from her eyes down to her hand and mutters that her hand is cold, yet against his own better judgment he catches her wrist, leaning into her palm and closes his eyes, murmuring that it is not bad. Only then does Bibi realize he has fallen asleep. He's actually partial to cold hands, so he really does like that. She then lies down beside him, murmuring that she does not mind catching his cold at all if it means sharing even this moment, as though letting his warmth seep into her until their boundaries blur completely. By the next day, Bibi is the one burning with fever. Meitaro tells her not to worry and simply take her medicine and rest, assuring her that a demon's cold clears in a single day, just as it did for him, but she insists it is because she took such good care of him. He dismisses it immediately, saying it is entirely due to the medicine, then awkwardly asks if there is anything she wants him to do for her, muttering that although she went out of her way for him, his current transformation magic is all he can properly use, so he cannot offer much in return, except perhaps to watch over her while she rests. But Bibi suddenly sits up, flushed and unsteady, swaying a little as she tries to speak, and when he asks what she is doing, she weakly replies that she still has to submit her university report. He recoils as though she has asked for his soul, especially when she looks at him with a pleading expression and asks him to go to her university in her place. Later, he stands in front of the university building in her form, looking at the university as if the sight of it offends him personally. As Meitaro walks inside the university, he mutters, he did say he would do her a favor, but to think she would ask him that. This place is huge, so this is a university. Still, why would she wait until the very last minute to turn in an assignment? Well, it is a good chance to brush up on his transformation magic, so he guesses he doesn't mind. However, he stands there awkwardly. He has absolutely no idea where anything is, where he is supposed to submit this report. Should he ask someone? But then again, he decides otherwise. Two men observe him from a corner, one of them muttering that she looks like she is in quite a spot of bother. The other says that is unusual. They want to go talk to her, but it is way too scary for him. But then they both decide they have to help her. In front of the submission office, the boy says it couldn't be helped, they did change the submission location out of nowhere, and she already submitted it early and did not see the notice, right? The man then says, anyway, he's glad she managed to turn it in. She stammers, yeah, thinking she can mimic her appearance with magic, but getting her expressions right is another matter. He then realizes that if it were Bibi, she would always respond like that, blinking at them softly and offering a quiet thank you. And the moment she does exactly that, the world seems to stall. They look as if they have just witnessed something divine, and both of them collapse at the same time. He stares at the scene, stunned. Wow, are they okay? And then he steps out. All the other students start bombarding her with questions. When is her next class? Is she in trouble? They will help her out, or whatever she's doing in a place like this. He stands there with a completely grossed out look as the men in front of him faint on the ground. He mutters, what on earth? Thinking are these humans simply unaccustomed to being thanked? One of them comments, what an angel. He mutters, the demon actually. Meanwhile, the girls all look at the scene in shock, wondering what is with the pile of bodies. The girls then approach Bibi and say they should grab lunch, today's limited time dessert is a winner. She replies, okay. In the cafeteria, one girl says she's fine with cheap Italian for a first date, she didn't expect him to treat her, and splitting the bill is totally fine, but after they paid, he had the nerve to say she passed. She mutters, the other girl mutters, and what is the deal with guys bringing up other women on purpose? The other replies, he's probably just bragging about how popular he is. Meitaro thinks it seems women converse about similar things in both the demon realm and the human realm. The woman says that when that happens, they need something sweet, and hands them both some candies. He accepts it, staring at the candy in his hand, thinking that she has friends to share meals like this with. He clenches his hand and, in a controlled tone, asks since when they have been hanging out like this. The girls look at her, dumbfounded. He quickly smiles nervously and explains that her relatives were curious about how she was doing at school, and she wanted to ask and check what they usually talk about, just to ensure there are no discrepancies in their perceptions. The girls reply that, well, first of all, they are in the same course and have been friends since high school. It has basically become routine. During lunch breaks, they line up, meet up, and eat together like this. Meitaro asks them if they usually talk like that about boyfriends, classes, and part-time jobs. The girls reply by asking why she is asking that, saying her relatives probably want to talk about her, right? They then continue, saying that if they are talking about her, there is the time she took down a bad man, and the time she took down a convenience store robber. He sits there, his expression suddenly shocked and trembling. She took down robbers. The girls then declare that hanging out with her is a lot of fun, and she is always adding to her lore when they are not looking. It is honestly hilarious, especially since she is usually so quiet. Just hanging out like this is fun too. Meitaro realizes that before she ever met him, she must have been completely alone. The girls then declare they should all play together again. He thinks that she has friends she can be completely at ease with, and a network of people who would help her if she is in trouble, just like earlier. Outside, one of their friends shows them a free drink ticket and asks if they want to stop by a cafe on the way home, since it is about to expire. Bibi stands there awkwardly, but her black-haired friend glances at her and asks if she has any plans. He thinks about it, plans, not really, but he wants to keep talking like this again, take classes together, and get invited out. Meitaro looks away, a light brightness in his expression, and admits that today was very enjoyable, thinking that he did not really have any friends, so this had been a novel experience. However, he says she should forgive him, as he must take his leave for today, since someone is waiting for him at home. As she leaves, the girls remain behind with dumbfounded expressions, thinking she just said someone was waiting for her. Maybe a boyfriend? But is that serious? Did she finally get a boyfriend? One of the girls suddenly cries out that it cannot happen, their precious friend. They insist that tomorrow is a day off, so they will get the whole story out of her on Monday, and they can use the ticket then. Then they say they should go ahead and use the ticket. However, a girl remains in hiding, anxiously picking at her nails, repeatedly whispering that she is different again and again, insisting that it is not her, that the one inside her is different. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part. It started off on the train. She stood quietly in the train while Bibi pinned the man to the floor with ease. She looked up at her and asked if she was okay. Her hair fell over her face. Yes, she replied quietly. She thought she recognized her. Nagisa Koga. Nagisa Koga from her university. Bibi then told the man standing next to her to go get a staff member. She had heard of her since she's kind of a minor celebrity on campus, but she watched her quietly, her heart thumping. Why would someone like her protect her? And then, at her part-time job, the same thing happened again. This time, Bibi defended her from a robber who had a huge knife in his hand. She was trembling quietly, standing at the counter, when a sharp kick delivered by Bibi dropped the robber on the floor. She then looked up at her and asked if she was hurt. She looked so ethereal in that moment that her hand flew to her mouth and that girl couldn't help but fall for her. At the first sign of danger, she appears with grace and brushes away evil as if dancing, just like a butterfly. She is smart and beautiful and so strong, and she never panders to anyone or wastes time trying to fit in. A noble knight with an icy gaze, that is Nagisa. In the present, she watches her with a bewildered look. That is completely out of character. Her Nagisa would never smile at just anyone like that. The way she's giggling away with a bunch of random guys she's not even close to. She's acting like a total flirt. Normally, she would never rely on anyone else no matter the hardship she's experiencing. The girl starts biting her fingers anxiously, thinking what has gotten into her. Her hand shakes as she decides there and then she will be the one to make her come to her senses. Later, as Bibi walks down the corridor, she looks around for room 202. She checks the numbers on the doors one by one until she suddenly freezes in place. Right in front of her is a board, cleaning in progress. Absolutely no entry. She stands there awkwardly, staring at it. Meanwhile, the girl watches from her hiding spot around the corner. She thinks Nagisa is in trouble right now, but this is for her own good. If Nagisa faces the trials placed before her all by herself, then surely she will remember who she really is. At least, that is the plan. But then a boy suddenly calls out to Nagisa with a wide, friendly smile. He points ahead of him and tells her she can get to the classroom from this way too. Nagisa blinks at him. Just like that, round 1 fails. The girl grits her teeth. Then comes round 2. Nagisa tries to go to the washroom. But before she can enter, a man looks at her in confusion and asks what is she doing here. The women's restroom is over there. Nagisa pauses. Then she realizes there is a sticker of a girl's sign placed on the men's restroom sign. The sticker falls off. Just like that, round 2 fails as well. The girl grabs and pulls on her hair in sick irritation. Then comes round 3. The cafeteria is selling special delicious cupcakes and they are all sold. This time she is sure it will work. However, another student calls out to Nagisa and tells her to try one. Just like that, round 3 fails too, even though that girl has already bought all the delicious cupcakes and is currently trying to stuff them all into her mouth. At this point, things are becoming ridiculous. In the end, she even goes as far as putting a trip wire in Nagisa's path. Maybe if Nagisa trips, hits her head, and faces a shocking moment, she will finally come back to her senses. Nagisa walks forward. The wire catches her foot and she stumbles. But before she can fall, another student quickly catches her. The student looks at her with wide eyes and asks if she is okay. Nagisa smiles at her. It is a gentle smile, a soft smile. The kind of smile that feels like a lullaby and tells her thank you. The girl watches everything happen and pulls at her hair like a possessed person. Total failure. Every single time, someone appears out of nowhere to help Nagisa. Nothing is going right. What is the point of any plan if someone is going to help her anyway? She has no idea how she is supposed to get her Nagisa back. But later, things become even worse. Nagisa turns to her friend and says that someone is waiting for her. The girl's eyes widen. She stands there in complete disbelief. Her friends excitedly ask her if she finally has a boyfriend. The girl starts trembling, again biting on her finger. No, her Nagisa is meant to stand alone. She is cold and beautiful and doesn't belong to anyone. But then she freezes. Now she knows why. Her eyes turn wild and unbelievable. There is someone else inside her. Then she has to drag it out, gouge it out. This time she will be the one to save Nagisa. She thinks if she cannot be hers, then she will be no one's and says she will drag it out. Her Nagisa is not like that. She must be possessed by a demon otherwise. She looks at the mirror, touching it, watching it with big wide eyes as she mutters to herself non-stop. But suddenly, a black circle appears on the mirror and it says, well, isn't she a perceptive one? She freezes. Huh, what? The mirror is talking. She was perfectly content just watching. She raises the knife with trembling fingers. The mirror says since the young master can only use transformation magic right now, that knife is a bit excessive, getting cut hurts. She blurts, what is it talking about? Who is it? His reflection can now be seen in the mirror. The amusement leaves his voice. He mutters that it is a taboo subject for him. She staggers back and barely manages to stay on her feet. Standing on shaky legs, she stares at him and asks again who he is. He asks if she is familiar with urban legends. The kind about things people should never say in front of a mirror. Then he pauses and says never mind. He remarks that once both love and mirrors become distorted, it is already over. A moment later, he lets out a small laugh and comments that it is rather hypocritical of him to say that. Yet the fact remains that she realized he was a fake. He supposes that means something. An agonizing smile spreads across his face. It grows wider and creepier. He supposes that love of hers is genuine. On the other hand, Meitaro shuts his eyes as the voices continue to replay in his mind. What's wrong, Nagisa? Is she okay? Hanging out with her is so much fun. Nagisa. Again and again, the words echo in his head. To think that even Bibi has friends. To think that there are people who genuinely care about her and adore her. He finally understands that indescribable feeling must be tender affection. Seeing the one he thought of as a little sister grow up safe and sound fills him with great relief, not that he can truly claim to have raised her, of course. But that is what love really is. In the short year they spent together, he supposes he grew somewhat fond of her, even if she was on your test subject. He finally understands it now, this tender affection. If he merely chalks up Bibi's attitude toward him as a slightly excessive adoration, then it is of no concern. That girl carried on without a single problem. Even after they parted ways, she grew up properly without becoming warped in the slightest. Later, she is on top of him, her fingers curled tightly around his wrist. He can only stare up at her. His eyes are wide. So wide that he does not even seem to blink. Nagisa, he stammers her name. Sweat trickles down his face, yet her gaze never leaves him. He looks at her, completely flabbergasted and dumbfounded, and blurts out her name. She continues watching him without looking away. Water trickles down her face from her wet hair, and for the first time, he actually looks scared of her. Then she tightens her grip around his wrist. And blurts out his name. She confesses that she loves him. His lips part. He blinks at her in complete bewilderment. For a moment, he can only stare. Then, as the shock begins to wear off, he suddenly pushes her back and sits up. He quickly lifts a hand between them to stop her from coming any closer and blurts out what has gotten into her all of a sudden. She quietly tells him that this is not sudden. She has loved him for 15 years. Dumbfounded, he blinks at her, not knowing what to say. Why is she saying this now? She avoids his gaze and softly admits that she never said it properly before, but she does not care how he sees her anymore. She feels differently now. Suddenly, she grabs his hand. He flinches. The next second, she pulls him around and wraps her arms around him from behind. She says that something more direct gets the message across better, right? His mouth falls open. This does not bode well. He has a very bad feeling about this. He suddenly jumps away from her and stares at her as though she has stepped straight out of a horror movie. Then he blurts out if she just got out of the bath. She needs to dry off properly because she is still wet. He says he will go get her a towel. Before he can leave, she grabs his hand. No, she tells him to listen to her and not to run away. Then she hugs him again and whispers into his ear that she loves him very much. A shiver runs through him. His face turns pink. She continues, telling him that she loves his pointy ears and his mysterious eyes. She loves his skin. His hair. He tries to tell her to stop, but her soft voice keeps reaching his ears, and his heart starts beating faster. She says she loves how smart he is. How hard he works, and despite all the years that have passed, it makes her happy that he still tries to look after her the way he used to. She loves him so much. Finally, he snaps and tells her to be quiet. Enough with all the I love yous. Sweat trickles down his face. Then he jumps and blurts out for her to stop whispering in his ear. It tickles. And she needs to stop holding him like that right now. Why does she always end up hugging him? He is not a stuffed animal. Then he freezes, his eyes widen as she quietly whispers that he likes it, doesn't he? Being held like that. She tilts her head as she watches him, a small smile appears on her lips. She tells him that he is cute. His face turns completely red. Who is she calling cute? She repeats it. He is cute. Actually, he cannot handle it when she does this. He cannot think straight. She slowly reaches toward him and tells him that he is incredibly cute. Whenever he uses his magic, he looks absolutely stunning. He is kind yet cruel. She hugs him again and softly calls him her dear demon. He becomes sweaty and nervous as his composure begins to slip. At this point, he honestly has to wonder which one of them is the cruel one. She is the one putting him through this torture. She is the one flooding him with sweet talk. It is so intoxicating that his ears are tingling, just to make sure he never gets away. She then whispers, love takes many forms, she knows, but for her, he is every single one of them. She doesn't know what to call this, and she knows they can never go back to how things were because it is already too late. He watches her. Then his gaze drops for a moment. Silence falls between them. After a while, he quietly says that, right, it is the same for him. He does not care what she thinks of him either. But then he suddenly grabs her. His voice turns colder as he tells her not to forget something important. He is a demon. Holding her in place, he looms over her. She can only stare up at him with wide eyes. His eyes narrow. If she presumes to understand him, he warns, then he will devour her. She blinks at him in complete confusion. For a moment, she simply stares. Then, just as suddenly, he pulls back. How inappropriate, he snaps at her and declares, all right, that's enough. He then points at her wet hair and tells her she needs to dry it properly, otherwise she is going to catch a cold, and if her fever comes back, he is absolutely not going to university as her again. She softly calls his name. He snaps again, what is it? She looks dumbfounded and tells him that the bath is ready for him. That is actually what she came here to say in the first place. He puts on his magic cap and says, not yet. It is too hot here. He says he is going to the balcony to get some fresh air. Then he leaves. After the door closes, she remains standing there for a moment. Then she suddenly clutches her chest. Her face turns bright red. Her heart pounds so loudly that it echoes in the room. Meanwhile, outside on the balcony, he grips the railing tightly. Closing his eyes, he lets out a tired sigh. He supposes she simply did not grow up properly after all. That must be it. But then he thinks about the environment she grew up in. It just doesn't make any sense. Even though she spelled it out for him, he cannot fathom why she would feel so strongly about him. He thinks, blinking blankly at the sky, so this is city life, the stars are not visible. His thoughts then shift back to her. He was the one who treated her as a test subject. Any attention he gave her was just an extension of that test. Is that really all it takes to trigger such intense feelings? Is that just how humans are? What is love anyway? He glares into the sky, just when he thought he finally figured it out and that he could go home. But then he grows quiet, holding his heart, but at the very least, if his heart is pounding like this over someone he only feels tender affection for, then he must be the one who's truly insalubrious. How is he supposed to act around her now? Suddenly someone mutters, well, it is no biggie, demons are all a little salubrious, that's the way it is. He jerks around, only to find Yatsumi, who has come with a letter. The enormous moon hangs behind her and she looks exactly like she is from the witch family they all seem to come from. She smiles brightly and lifts a hand in greeting. Hiya. Then she introduces herself as Yatsumi, the Demon King's personal attendant. She says she has a message for him. A message from the Demon King. Yatsumi excitedly tells Bibi that her entire family serves the Demon Royal family, so she and Miyataro are actually related, even if only distantly. However, Bibi is barely hearing a word she says. Instead, her attention is completely fixed on how close Yatsumi is standing to her and her sense of personal space. Everything to do with those aspects is not ideal for her. Completely oblivious, Yatsumi beams and continues, saying they have known each other ever since they were little, so they are basically childhood friends. Sharon, Miyataro, and she are all the same age, which means the three of them have always been incredibly close. Bibi quietly repeats, Sharon. Yatsumi nods with a bright smile and says, yeah, there's Sharon the cutie. Then she suddenly pauses, wondering if she even introduced herself properly. Miyataro finally reaches the end of his patience and snaps that they are standing way too close. His eyes narrow as he glares at the two of them, silently deciding that this is absolutely unacceptable, his jealousy written all over his face. Yatsumi however ignores him and gives a polite bow, saying she should probably start over. She introduces herself properly as the Demon King's personal attendant, Yatsumi the Death Stalker, and says it is a pleasure to make Bibi's acquaintance. She lets out an exaggerated laugh and cheerfully adds that Bibi is free to call her Yatsumi. Bibi timidly calls out, Yatsumi, in a frightened little voice. As she quietly thinks to herself, so that is Yatsumi, she also remembers there is this Sharon as well, imagining Miyataro standing right in the middle of the two of them. Miyataro mutters what brings the loud-mouthed, cross-dressing maid here. She casually replies that she has a message from the Demon King. Just like that, her attention goes back toward Bibi, unable to stay away from her for even 2 seconds, as she happily declares that this must be the Bibi she has heard so much about. She admits she completely forgot she would get the chance to meet her while she was here. She even mentions hearing that Prince Miyataro had been keeping a human all to himself. Completely caught off guard by the accusation, Miyataro snaps that he is not, but Yatsumi ignores him entirely and sweetly continues, teasing that Bibi seems to have him completely wrapped around her little finger. Once again, he loudly insists that he is not. Yatsumi admits that Sharon described him as looking like a pathetic little caterpillar, though still an adorable one. Miyataro quietly mutters, "Stupid mirror." Almost on cue, the mirror suddenly speaks up and casually announces that he is Sharon, Mirror Man. Although it is a little late, a hand suddenly reaches out from inside the mirror, offering Bibi a small gift. Suddenly exhausted, Miyataro turns back toward Yatsumi and tells her that is enough already and that they should finally get to the point. Yatsumi laughs and replies that she really does have a message from the Demon King, although it is not actually meant for him. It is for Bibi instead. Miyataro looks genuinely surprised and asks how that is even possible. Smiling brightly, Yatsumi reminds him that Bibi was the one who summoned the Demon King, wasn't she? She excitedly adds that it is amazing because successfully summoning him is even rarer than pulling an SSR in a gacha game. Miyataro is just as stunned, quietly repeating that Bibi summoned the Demon King. He had always wondered how the two of them knew each other. He even considered the possibility that she might have summoned him herself, but he never actually believed it was true. Still, now that he thinks about it, everything suddenly makes perfect sense. She summoned the Demon King herself, which naturally means, his thoughts suddenly trail off. He silently summons his staff. The sudden silence filling the room catches Bibi's attention. Looking up at him, she softly calls out to him, but he never once turns around. Instead, he quietly says he is going to step outside for a little while. Since it is a message from the Demon King himself, it would not be appropriate for a third party like him to remain and listen. Bibi simply watches him leave, her eyes wide with confusion, before quietly asking if he might be mad with her. She seems to become small with sadness. Yatsumi reassures her in an encouraging voice, saying she does not believe that is the case at all. Their dear Mitaro is an incredibly considerate person, after all. He has probably just gone out to buy some tea so he can properly serve his guest, don't you think? Meanwhile, at the shop, Mitaro stands in front of the shelves with a frown, staring toward the very top shelf as he mutters that it is not there. He could have sworn the black tea was always kept on the top shelf. All he can see now is coffee. Did they sell out? Or maybe it is hidden from view. Perhaps it is just a little higher up. For a while now, something has been bothering him. Where they stand with each other, aside from the business with the Demon King, there's something else. Doesn't he feel, before he can finish the thought, someone bumps into him. Reacting on instinct, he politely apologizes, saying, "Oh, pardon me, young lady," but then he looks up and realizes he is actually talking to an elderly woman. She chuckles, saying it has been such a long time since anyone besides her husband called her that. Smiling warmly, she asks whether he was searching for something. He politely answers that he has been looking for the black tea section. The old woman simply points toward the shelf right beside him, where the black tea is sitting plainly on the lower shelf, and remarks that it has been hiding in plain sight all along. The two of them quietly stare at it together, allowing a brief moment for his complete dumbfoundedness to sink in. The woman then gently remarks that it is surprisingly easy to overlook the things that are right in front of you, especially when all you ever do is look upward. Her simple words suddenly bring back lots of memories. He remembers proudly walking around with his chin held high, never once lowering his gaze to notice the sweet and full of life smiles Bibi always gave him. His expression softens as he remembers that. He admits that it really does seem to be exactly like that. He realizes he has only been looking at everything from a single perspective all this time. In doing so, he ended up overlooking the person who had always been standing right beside him. Hoping to make up for accidentally bumping into her, he tells the old woman that it is not much of an apology, but asks if he can help carry her groceries instead, glancing toward the mountain of shopping piled inside her cart. Looking delighted, the woman says, "Oh my." A little later, outside the shop, she tells him that she will be perfectly fine from there because her ride will be arriving soon. Relieved, he quietly thinks that is good to hear because he honestly had no idea how she planned to carry all of those groceries home by herself. Just then, she suddenly remembers something and cheerfully tells him he can have these if he wants because she won them in a raffle. Curious, he asks what they are as he accepts them from her. Meanwhile, back with Bibi, she looks down at the items and quietly says they are tickets. Yatsumi explains that they are tickets to an event being held here in the human realm for 2 people. Bibi shyly asks whether the Demon King really sent these for her. Yatsumi replies that, according to Sharon, regardless of how everything happened, it was ultimately the Demon King who saddled her with the young master in the first place. Because of that, Chiron boldly declared that, from now on, she may as well consider the Demon King her own personal benefactor. He will probably continue sending anything that might help with the young master's training. Yatsumi enthusiastically agrees, saying, "Yep yep." Suddenly, her eyes sparkle mischievously as she leans in closer and whispers to Bibi not to hold back and to make sure she has an absolutely wonderful time because it is a date with Mitaro. Bibi's cheeks flush a deep shade of red as she lowers her gaze toward the flower festival tickets, looking shy. Later, they sit on the picnic cloth in the middle of the field. They end up sitting at opposite ends, leaving an awkward distance between them. Neither says a word. Both simply shut their eyes. Earlier, Meitaro had looked at the witch in complete disbelief, asking if she seriously wanted him and Bibi to go on a date. The witch simply smiled and said it was a message from the Demon King. Then she added that it was also a gift. It would help him learn about love, so he should think of it as part of his training. Meitaro could only mutter under his breath that she was making fun of him, wasn't she? In the end, the contents of the message turned out to be harmless enough. But putting that aside for now, why is this so awkward? They are just sitting in the middle of a field. Disguised as a human, Meitaro sits with his knees pulled up to his chest. Bibi is sitting the exact same way on the opposite side. Neither of them says a word. Shouldn't a date involve talking? Or walking around together? Instead, they have been sitting there in complete silence for almost an hour. It is not like he has been dying to go on a date or anything. But if they are going to do this, shouldn't they at least do it properly? Why is she so quiet? Is it because of how he left earlier? He guesses he might have come across as a little rude, but Bibi is to blame too. She never told him she summoned the Demon King. It is not like she was obligated to tell him, but she also did not have to keep it completely to herself. And why did he have to hear about it from the witch of all people? He had already suspected it. Even so, he is still his older brother. Then there is Bibi. When it comes to him, she understands him so well. He glances over at her. She has her head lowered, quietly staring at the ground. His own gaze slowly lowers as well. She even knows things about him he never realized about himself. Earlier, when she casually told him he liked being held, he had stood there completely stunned. The memory suddenly pops back into his head. His face turns red. Even though it feels like she has him completely figured out, she has never been the type to talk about herself. Not now. Not even back then. Maybe getting too close is not such a good idea either, but this is a little too distant. There is way too much space between them. Suddenly, Meitaro flinches. Nearby, a mother shouts at her children, asking how long are the two going to keep fighting. A little girl cries out he started it. Their mother tells them they came all the way here to play, so they should make the most of it. Then she gently tells them they should be friends again, okay? Meitaro quietly watches the little girl crying her eyes out, his eyes widening. The mother continues comforting her daughter, gently repeating that they should make up and be friends again. Then Bibi quietly speaks, "I'm sorry." Meitaro whips his head toward her. In a small voice, she asks if he was not just trying to be considerate when he went shopping earlier. Then she admits she does not understand why he got so upset. Meitaro quickly realizes Bibi never heard his conversation with Yatsum. From her point of view, he suddenly got upset and stormed off without explaining anything. He quickly tries to explain, but she cuts him off and quietly says she knows she once told him she did not care what he thought of her, but she does not want him to hate her. The vulnerability in her eyes suddenly becomes too clear to miss. Meitaro can only stare at her in surprise. That rubbed him the wrong way. He has never liked having anyone above him, or anyone so close to him he can feel their body heat. Anything that doesn't suit him just irritates him. But what bothers him even more than that is, suddenly, she freezes, her eyes widening as he tosses a flower crown onto her head, trying to act like it is no big deal. Keeping a blank expression, he mutters, "That face." She has been making that expression every now and then ever since they reunited. He tells her to stop looking at him with such a defeated expression. What kind of person demands that he take responsibility, only to mumble "I love you" like they have no choice? And why does she always get so shy at times like this? Unable to hold it all in anymore, he snaps that she should be more proud of her love for him. Bibi's eyes widen, now shining. He quickly clears his throat before adding in a quieter voice that if she is going to woo a demon, she should at least be bolder. It is an honor, after all. But she immediately blurts out that she was not trying to woo him. He asks, then what exactly was she trying to do? She admits she is not really familiar with that sort of thing. He takes a step back and mutters that neither is he. When she keeps staring at him, He gets embarrassed and snaps, asking if she has a problem with that. She says no, it is just so like him, a little high and mighty. He says he prefers honest, and she adds, and pretty condescending too. Planting his hands on his hips, he proudly declares that one day he will be the one standing at the top, and he likes being this way. Then he looks at her again. Still smiling, still wearing the flower crown, she looks prettier than ever. His look softens as he quietly thinks to himself that she should always stay by his side. Bibi then asks if that means she can be even bolder. He stares at her, completely dumbfounded, as she starts moving closer. Watching from afar, the witch thinks she hopes this is love, though she honestly does not know what to call whatever this is. It is strange, but she still hopes it becomes love. After all, there is no way those two are ever supposed to end up together. That girl belongs to the Demon King. Watching two people destined never to be together slowly fall for each other is complete and utter bliss. Looking through the mirror, the demon remarks that she is quite the demon. The witch replies that Sharon is pretty soft for a demon himself. He admits he is looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds. After all, the young master will become the next Demon King, so who knows what the future holds. Smiling, the witch says that if those two actually do end up together, it would be hilarious in its own way. Sharon simply replies that he just hopes it never grows beyond a crush. She watches him with wide, shining eyes after he tells her she should be more proud of the love she has for him. He can only stare back into those beautiful eyes, thinking that the more dazzling she looks, the more he feels himself melting into a muddy puddle. But then she reaches up and lightly touches the flower crown on her head before looking up at it and saying he is pretty bad at making flower crowns, isn't he? His mouth falls open at being called unskilled. She tells him his hands just are not suited for delicate work. Just like with magic, he always ends up doing something else, and without magic, he is hopeless. He quickly mutters that he can barely remember the steps right now, that's all. He is in human form, so he cannot use magic. Once he remembers how to do it, he will be able to make a flower crown in no time. Smiling gently, she tells him she will teach him how to make one. Her words bring back an old memory. Back then, he had been the one teaching little Bibi how to make a flower crown, telling her to cross the stems at a right angle, then twist them together into two strands. She quietly followed his instructions. Curious, he asked why she had suddenly wanted to learn how to make flower crowns. She shyly answered that it was for him. He simply nodded and said that made sense. Then, after calling his name, she suddenly asked if he wanted to become a king. He answered, yeah, the Demon King. Later, he looked into his magic mirror while wearing the flower crown she had made and remarked that she really was such a sweet girl. Then he frowned and said this was basically just a bunch of flower corpses, wasn't it? The mirror immediately complained as Bibi gave him a wounded look like a betrayed kitten. The mirror called him an insensitive demon. It then insisted there was nothing wrong with it and told him to think of it as marching over the fallen. After all, a true Demon King is someone who stands atop a mountain of corpses. So this flower crown was his crown. Hearing that, he turned toward little Bibi and asked if she was the one who would make him a king. She simply looked back at him with those big, round eyes. He had been kind from the very beginning. So had his touch, and even his voice. He thinks about it while tapping a finger against his chin, saying he supposes it is finally time to give her a name. He will have to think of one first. Their eyes had met plenty of times before, but in that moment, it feels like they truly connect for the first time. It is the first time he is really looking at her. Until now, he had only seen her as a test subject, or at best, a human infant. She supposes that is still better than him seeing her as a child or a daughter. She knows she said she did not care what he thought of her, but as for her, suddenly, he turns toward her and asks if she knows clovers normally have 3 leaves, while a 4-leaf clover is considered a symbol of good luck. Pretending to be surprised, she says, oh really, even though she already knows that. Still, he looks so proud of himself that she decides not to ruin the moment. He explains that it is only a fairy tale humans came up with. Finding something so rare among countless ordinary ones means pushing the rest aside to seize happiness for yourself. That is the meaning behind it. She asks if that is really what a 4-leaf clover symbolizes. He replies probably, yeah. She looks at him in confusion and repeats, yeah. He explains that was what he used to call the older sister-type nanny butler. She asks if he means the witch, Yatsum. He replies that Yatsum only dresses as a woman for a certain reason, but is actually a man. If he remembers correctly, Yaya was the one who first taught him how to make flower crowns. He hardly remembers it anymore. It was simply too long ago. Hearing that, she realizes there is still so much she does not know about him, and it is not just because they were apart for 15 years. She quietly says he has been alive since long before she was born, hasn't he? Not knowing anything about that part of his life makes her feel a little lonely. No, lonely is not quite the right word. It is frustrating. He tells her not to be ridiculous and says he does not think that is entirely true. Hasn't she realized it already? She is probably the only person who knows what he is like when it is just the two of them. She falls silent. He reminds her that she was the one who said he was hopeless without magic, that his hands were clumsy, or something along those lines. Then he mutters never mind and says they should focus on this for now. It is time for the next step. At first, she thought he was a gentle angel. Then she found out he was a demon. Now he gives her an annoyed look and asks if she is even listening. Weren't they supposed to be making a flower crown? Instead, she is completely zoning out. He asks what is wrong. Wasn't she supposed to be teaching him? She suddenly freezes. Memories of their whole life attack her mind at once, and with her face turning bright red, she blurts out that he is being a little devil right now. He only looks at her in confusion. She quickly tells him to ask her anything. What does he want to do after they finish making the flower crown? He stares at her, completely dumbfounded, and asks since when this turned into an interview. She quickly suggests taking a boat onto the pond or stopping for a photo. Looking exasperated, he mutters okay, he gets it. Honestly, what is he supposed to do with her? Then, without warning, she gently takes his hand and presses a soft kiss against his fingers, thinking that, at least for now, he is her very own gentle demon. A moment later, he pulls something out and hands it to her, telling her to take a look. Does she know what it is? She takes it from him. It is a discounted ticket to a planetarium. A planetarium? He repeats. She explains that it is a place where they can see a starry sky indoors, along with commentary about the constellations. Since it is made by humans, it is not the real thing. He stares at her in disbelief. Humans made stars. He remembers a woman once telling him that humans are full of desires. Back then, he had clung to a tree trunk like a koala and asked if that was why they turned to demons. She replied that it was one possibility. If humans did not have something, they would create it even without magic. They brought things into existence from nothing. Someday, they might even make things that seemed completely impossible, even the stars themselves. He had immediately blurted out, no way. The woman simply ruffled his hair and told him to remember one thing. Whether it was stars, crowns, or even a place to call home, some humans would never give up until they obtained what they desired. Crossing his arms, he frowns at the ticket and mutters, a planetarium, huh? Bibi quietly calls his name in confusion, while he thinks to himself that maybe Yaya had been right after all. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.